Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton and this is my story, His Label. That's him all right, thought Rosina as she read paragraph after paragraph of hard, dense text. That was him. She'd suddenly discovered his defining label. He wasn't a psychopath as she'd originally wondered, but this was so close to the mark that reading it was like a kick in the guts.
A narcissist likes to consider himself intelligent, complex, analytical, logic-based, and something of an enigma. To the stranger, he seems strong, secure, and in tune with his own needs, and he loves to exploit that. But the reality is that the character is underdeveloped, pitiful, and weak. The type of weak person who energizes when required to fight, who seeks a battle which will enable him to, over and over again, establish what he feels is his superiority over the remainder of the human race, the fools and robots, the decent, the responsible, and those who happily comply with society's systems.
But Rosina knew that it was the acceptance of the fools, and everyone else was the fool, that kept the world running.
This character pretends to demand change and political overhaul, but once again he's hiding his own truth behind a facade. He needs those very systems as much as the rest of us do. Without those systems he could not survive. He hasn't the character to effectively support himself and requires the financial backup of the state. He hates the police and law and order, but would be the first to make the call if a group of youths were getting a bit too rowdy outside his flat. There's a constant and underlying hypocrisy about the man.
Wait, thought Rosina. The man? This was getting personal and very, very specific. It was as if the web page editor could see into Rosina's life.
Physically, he's big, surly, sturdy and intimidating. You can't put your finger on exactly what it is, but there's something uncommon about his body language, about the way he holds his neck and shoulders, about his stance, about his stare. It may be indefinable, but it is certainly not quite right, not quite trustworthy.
Rosina nodded. She almost dared not read on. She half expected the website to name him. Instead, she did. Neil Williamson.
And if you're the person I think you are, then you feel things, you think things, you empathise and always try to look at the brightest glowing embers of your fellow humans. You probably also try to view shortcomings as challenges or chinks in otherwise flawless armour. And guess what? You're just the type of person he's looking for. He needs you to make himself function, and he will draw you into his world by love-bombing you early on, so you're inclined to think the best of him in later times. At first there will be gifts and compliments and tolerance, but soon, and these things start small, so you can't always see them till it's too late, you're backing away, defending yourself, constantly dealing with insults, unpleasantness and unhappy times.
Rosina unplugged her laptop and carried it from desk to sofa. She covered her knees with her favourite and most comforting furry throw and continued to read.
You are happy, so he gives you reason not to be. You look to outside your relationship for relief, only to find that he destroys those relationships or even destroys the people themselves. Soon you, the empathic being that you are, will be providing him with precisely what he requires, perhaps out of fear or perhaps through misplaced loyalty. Or perhaps, and this is one of the reasons why he love bombs you, the hope that all this may just be a temporary phase he's going through. It isn't. It is permanence and it is reality. He gives you nothing but commands, insults and grief. Why?
Why indeed, thought Rosina. That's what she'd come online to discover on so many different occasions.
Because this person can only take, and you can't heal him, not ever. This person will never be changed because in order to change, you first need to desire such change and to understand that change is required. But his narcissism is egosyntonic. He cannot and will not tolerate any thought or statement about himself which challenges his own existing belief system. He cannot accept that he may be unpleasant or might benefit from some form of behaviour management, and he is not a person you would ever find studying a self-help book for nuggets of truth and assistance. Consider asking someone what, if anything, about their personality they would like to change or work on. Most of us liberal and thoughtful types would surely put forward a suggestion. Perhaps we'd like to remove our negativity, or gain more confidence, or decrease our gullibility, or take command of our lack of self-control. Whatever. Most of us are only too aware of our own shortcomings. Some of us have a great many. He, on the other hand, would state with great bombast that you must be crazy if you think that he is the one with the problem. He is perfectly in control. He is just right as he is. He is perfect. This is what he does. He projects his own mental condition back onto you and to anyone who dares question him.
The tears began rolling down Rosina's cheeks. Finally, here was someone who understood. It was as if this someone had walked in her shoes. She carried on.
After all, this is simply a game, the game of narcissistic life, and yes, he will play till the end. But he will play only by his own rules, as those are the only ones he accepts. When you wish to play another version of life, the normal, non-narcissistic game, no matter how many times you may try to explain them to him, he'll say, "No, you're a fool. You're not the game. That's not the game. You, your thoughts, your possessions, all inadequate, all wrong, all pathetic." So why won't he let you go? Why does he hold on? Because you poor ordinary soul, are his lifeline and link with normal humanity, his victims.
Tubby the cat jumped onto the sofa next to Rosina. He had an incredible skill for picking up the times when she needed reassurance. "It's all right, Tubby," she said, and he purred into her hand as she continued to read.
Life with a narcissist is a form of hell and just about the most unpleasant time you will ever experience. They say one thing, and then when you question them about it, they deny it. That's called gaslighting. They project their weaknesses onto you. They demand their narcissistic supply, a supply of attention, good or bad, which keeps them fired up and makes you unwell, confused and hurt. Oh yes, they hurt you. They make excuses and give the hurt a reason, but my God, how they hurt you. And it's all for one reason, because of their desire to control you and keep you with them. Not out of any kind of love, because this person can't and won't experience love as you and I know it, but out of their need to be with someone who meets their need for control. Complex, aren't they, these narcissists? Well, they'd certainly like you to believe that they're full of intense mystery and hidden depths. But the reason they need to intimidate, bully, hurt and siphon off your powers is because they have none of their own. You see, at the start of their lives, when the emotional self was maturing, they stagnated. They've never moved on towards full emotional maturity or into a state of taking responsibility for their own actions, growing their own personalities, developing their strengths and improving their weaknesses. Instead, they've remained in a semi-toddler state, going through the functions of being a real human being, but not actually managing. It's all an act. The only thing that isn't an act is the nastiness, and you, the normal, the empath, the victim, the enabler, had better get out when you can, as soon as you can.
Tubby and Rosina continued staring at the screen for long after the human had finished her reading. The clock in the hallway struck the hour, and Rosina realised she would be late for her date. Tubby was pushed to the floor, and all thoughts of Neil Williamson were forgotten, for now. She had no choice but to think of him once her date was over and she'd been kissed gently goodnight at her front door. Rosina knew that she had to do something about the awkward situation sooner rather than later. Rob was asking to come up for coffee again. So, with a lighter than usual heart and a lighter than usual purse, she'd paid for Rob's meal again, Rosina set to work to clear up the mess. After all, it had been more than 2 days since she'd stuck a kitchen knife into the chest of Neil Williamson. She'd wiggled it around the empty cavity where his heart should have been. Neil had said it 1,000 times, that she was too weak to move on and was so ugly that nobody else could ever care for her. She would show him, she thought, as she began the laborious process of wrapping his increasingly repulsive body with 20 rolls of cling film.